My favorite show is back on the air, and that is from season 3. This show is on MGM Plus, and it has filled the lost shape hole in my heart when that show went off the air. What I love about this show is, yes, the horror vibes and the monsters coming out of the woods, but it's really the mystery of it all, the surrealness of it all, but also the drama and the characters as well. And they balance all of these things really well into a show that is definitely unique and also captures that same energy where I need to find out more about what's going on. This show is all about balancing, giving you answers, but leaving mysteries intact while also trying to ramp up the conflict constantly. So that is the battle with season 3. We've seen so much of this world at this point. We still have to preserve that sense of horror, that sense of mystery, and that is what they're trying to do with this episode here. So episode 1, it was a bit of a build-up episode. We left at a high point at the end of last season. Of course, Fromville is this place that kind of exists outside of time and space in a way. It's this almost like astral plane, spirit realm type of place where people get drawn to, they get trapped in, and they are reliant on the place itself providing them what they need. So we're in this place where we can't leave. That's the whole premise of the show, is that everybody's trapped there. You can't leave. You go in any direction, you end up going in circles. That's what we started with in the first episode. So we break that order with the end of last season. We have Tabitha here managing to escape through the lighthouse. There's a mysterious lighthouse. She goes to the top of it. The boy in white pushes her out the door, or out the window rather, after apologizing, saying this is the only way. So this is how she ended up here. And I speculated in a video that this might be just a deeper layer of the place, of the Fromville, and it very well still could be. Tabitha doesn't seem to trust her senses. You know, obviously she's way out of it, not used to being in the real world, and maybe she doesn't even know if it is the real world at this point. So that is half of this episode, is like, what is Tabitha going to do? I pointed out last episode I did about this that there's a logo here that looks very suspicious compared to the logo that Jade has been drawing in his notebook and trying to find everywhere. So that is a big part of this mystery. Is this hospital a part of the place, or is it related in some way? I suppose we'll have to find out, but we get out of this hospital pretty quickly. You know, it seems like a pretty normal interaction here. You know, the doctor's trying to get information out of Tabitha. She doesn't really reveal anything. The police are on the way to investigate her, which is pretty much standard procedure, but she leaves, and the question is why? I think it's pretty clear why, because there's no way anybody's going to believe her about where she's from or where she's been, so she would rather just not explain it to the authorities at hand, because they could very well lock her up in a mental asylum or something like that, at least for the 48 hours they're allowed to do such things. So she flees out the door as the police are coming in. And then she spots the boy in white here, and she chases him, but is it a hallucination? Is he really here? Because it's another boy. Turns out it's not actually the boy in white. So did she actually spot him? Is the boy still guiding him outside of the Fromville? I guess we'll find out. So one thing with this show is it really seems like I said, this is like a spiritual battleground going on. And it's kind of similar to like Twin Peaks, I think of a lot, because Twin Peaks is all about the supernatural forces overhead that are using humans as pawns in their spiritual warfare. That's kind of like, if you take a big picture look at what Twin Peaks is about, all 3 seasons in the movie, that's really what you end up seeing. We could get into that in a separate video, but I think we're getting a similar story here where different people have connections with the world that we're in. And Boyd's seems to be that he is seeing dead people, but he mentions in this scene, you know, we ended off last season with him seeing his dead wife who went crazy, and she was telling him this place runs on hope. You're just prolonging the inevitable by trying to save everyone, keep everyone alive, and he rejects that. So he doesn't know if it actually is his wife. He says it isn't, and he doesn't know if the priest character, Katari, is actually him or just another being wearing his face, or is he hallucinating? I tend to think it's not a hallucination because of everything we've seen in this world already, that he has a special connection. We know Sarah is hearing voices telling her to do things. There's other, like Victor, he's drawing the future. He's getting special knowledge from somewhere. So it's like this spiritual connection that seems to be infecting them in a way. So is it positive? Is it negative? We don't really know where these forces are coming from. Who's getting in contact with good forces? Who's getting in contact with bad forces? Or maybe they're one and the same. You know, we don't really know at this point. But I think this scene is really about catching up the audience where we're at. You know, we're talking about how we're running out of food and the leaves are falling off the trees. It's winter time. It's going bad. And we have the other conflict in the episode, which is Tabitha's missing. Ethan, her son, wants to look for her in the woods. And that means Jim has to do something so that they don't run off. Even though that's the exact reason why Tabitha left, because she doesn't want the kids left alone. So Boyd tries to talk him out of it, but Kenny ends up leaving instead with him as well. He offers to go. And I have to wonder if this is about, you know, the love interest character whose, you know, significant other has returned to the town. So maybe he just kind of wants to escape, and obviously the loss of his father. And now, rip, we have a brutal ending to this episode. Definitely, I think they ramped it up at the end. I would say it's a pretty slow episode until we get to that point at the end where it really explodes into something that's very interesting. I think they had a good ending to this episode that really wants me to lock into this season and keep going. So here's another conflict, is Fatima. She is pregnant, even though she wasn't supposed to be. And, you know, we're talking about how the place gives you miracles sometimes. But given how strong the season is trying to make us feel like everything's going wrong, I have to wonder if she's actually impregnated with a good force. I have to wonder if maybe it's something sinister, actually. So I have a feeling that's what it's going to end up being. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. This lady, Lily, she was in the last season. She was on the bus. I don't know if you guys remember. She gave Marielle, Christy's love interest, the drugs that she was addicted to. And she's like seemingly carefree, but there's always been something off about her because she just is not acting natural. She's always trying to be calm and wise, and it almost seems like she's one of those forces, and she kind of invades somebody's dreams later in the episode. So I have to wonder if she is one of the forces that is in fact, you know, working against these people. You know, if she is in touch with, she seems to be aware of what's going on more than she should. So it's definitely something off about her. I think we'll get to that. And now we're finding out that the crops are rotten. That's another thing. Running out of food, winter's coming, everything's going bad, and that's like the big plot for this season. And now Jade is obsessed with finding this symbol because he found the caves with the symbol above, the symbol that looks like the hospital symbol, and the kids were saying Hankui or whatever it is, whatever that means. I don't think anybody's figured out if it's a actual language. So we'll see what that means later on, but he's obsessed with it. And that's just kind of a subplot. It doesn't really go anywhere in this episode, but I'm sure we're just setting up for something later. Tabitha calls home, which leads credence to this actually being the real world. So we'll have to see if that ends up being the case. I think she is, because if they pull the rug out from under us and say, oh, it was actually fake all along, after this whole episode, it would kind of feel a little underwhelming, right? Unless there's another big reveal at that point. So I think she is really out there. I don't know what you guys think. But now we have saying goodbyes, we're leaving, and we're trying to follow in Boyd's footsteps when he did the expedition last season. So the crops are ruined, they stampede the rations, and somebody wants to kill the goat for meat, and everything's just going badly. Boyd's trying to step in and be the peacekeeper that he always is, but it kind of is not really working. He's not getting through to Randall, but Randall just gives up because it's not worth it in that moment that he's going to get ganged up on. So we're in the woods and we find something new and sinister. So we have these weird looking statues, and it's like naturalistic. It's like pine cones and wood from trees all together, and there's even a crown of thorns or maybe a bird's nest, but it looks like it's wrapped around the head. Very obvious biblical imagery, I would say. And since last season we had Civil War soldiers in some of Jade's hallucinations, so it seems like this place has existed for a long time, and things across time just end up in this world. They get sucked away. You have all these stories of people who go missing, urban legends and stuff like that. I think that we're kind of referencing that type of thing. And this seems to be from another culture, another time. Who knows what time period this is from, but we got like log cabins that were built and just warning people away. Maybe this was their way of trying to get the monsters to leave them alone. They would just have these weird things like scarecrows almost. Not really sure what to make of this at this point, but it's definitely a creepy place. They decide they're going to stay here, and they get lost here on their way to the lighthouse. So I guess we'll see where this ends up going. We're going to be doing something with this next episode because there's somebody outside when they're talking at night about what they're doing next. They talk about going back to the town. There's no way that they did this whole plot line just to have them go back to the town in the next episode. Something's going to sidetrack them, no doubt. So Tabitha is here talking to a priest, and again, with all the priests and the religious imagery and stuff like that we're talking about, it's that spiritual warfare theme concurrent through this episode. So she is talking about how, the force of the place that she went to is sinister and evil, and she, kind of rejects God in that moment, because if God is real, then God made everything happen. She even blames him for the death of her son, which is really how she ended up there. Because one thing I mentioned in my last video about this show is every character who ends up there, they end up there at a juncture point in their life when something significant either just happened to them or is about to happen to them. So there's all these examples of that, and pretty much every character ends up in the place as a result of things happening. They're crossing into a certain threshold in their life. In this case with Tabitha and Jim, they're about to get divorced. So going to the place actually kept them together. So there was actually kind of this benevolence to it in a way. Even though it's like the worst possible thing that could have happened to them, it kept them together through the adversity. So, she's still, in her own perspective, doesn't really see the bigger picture, right? So that's the thing, is there's these forces at work that are doing things that she can't understand in the moment until it's all past, So even this discussion where she's rejecting God and all of that, she has this lunchbox, and the priest, being a vessel for God in the scene, is talking about the lunchbox because, he has no idea what she's talking about. He can only grasp onto little things. He's trying to be empathetic and understanding as much as he can, and he tries to latch on to little things. So he's like, okay, Victor, there's a lunchbox. He packed you a lunch. So I'm going to ask about something tangible that I can see right now. And then she looks in the lunchbox. That's where she needs to go next. So this conversation, even though she's rejecting God in this moment, there is a spiritual force at play through the priest that leads her to the next step. So that's the significance of this scene. It's a little cliche with the whole, using the confessional thing for lore dumps. It's something you see in a lot of stories, but I think it's at a significant point in this story that it makes sense. So I think it leads to the next thing. I think a lot of people might watch this scene and be like, we didn't need that scene. You could cut that out. But I think it is significant. I'm trying to understand where they're going with it. Here we see this Lady Tilly invading this guy's dream. He hasn't been able to sleep since the whole sleep kills you thing last season. And there's this strange force that is coming to get him. So I don't know if we have any hints of who this is. I'm sure if I went back to last season, they might have hinted at it a little bit. But, who knows? And we're talking here about killing the animals. How long can that last? They need food from somewhere else. How long can we last? Can we actually plant crops? It's a really desperate situation. And here we got Tabitha running into Victor's father. This is going to be the key to everything in that part of the storyline. We're going to start to understand things a little bit. Obviously the mother's not there, so she went to the tower as well, to the lighthouse, where did she end up? I have a feeling we're going to find out next episode. So we're going to get some secrets there. There's some sort of mystery outside this cabin, but nothing really happens in this scene. And then we get this pretty thrilling scene where the creatures let out the animals. I didn't know that they could do that, but I assume because there was no talisman there that they can do that. But why didn't they do that before? It's almost like they need the people to stay alive. You know, she talked about the ghost of his wife, talked about how they need the people to have hope in order for this place to continue on. So they don't want to just kill everybody, I'm assuming, the creatures. And like I said, there's bigger forces at play here. So they didn't do it to this point because they needed people to stay alive, but they're doing it now because they were basically challenged by Boyd to break him. They want to break him because he said that they couldn't. They're toying with him. And that's all. They seem to not be like feasting and they're sustaining themselves on the people that they kill. They are just trying to get that emotional response out of people. So otherwise, I think they would take more advantage. You know, they let Boyd get to the barn. You know, they could have probably killed him along the way there, even though we now have a tool to kill one of these creatures with the worms, although we don't know quite how to harness that right now. But it seems like they wanted this all to happen. So we actually get Randall being a kind of hero here and helping out the family. The young boy Ethan sees his favorite goat out there. He wants to save him, lets in one of the creatures. The creepy old lady. I like how we have a lot of the same ones coming back. That's always cool. And the weird sailor outfit, you know, like I said, these are all like different time periods of people that come back. You know, I don't know where these creatures come from. It almost seems like they embody people that have been here before. So they obviously consume the dead. So it's not like they rise up like zombies, but maybe when they eat them, they take on their likeness or more come out of the woods. Who knows? But I like Randall being the hero here because, you know, we don't just want... It would be too simple if he's just a jerk all the time. And you can understand his perspective as well. But yeah, brutal scene with Kenny's mother getting eaten slowly in front of Boyd. Because I knew as soon as he opened that, I was like, they're definitely in there already. So that was their plan all along. And I'm loving this episode. I'm really curious where we're going. Definitely leave your theories in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. But I plan to cover this whole season because I love this show and I want it to succeed. And I want to chat with all you guys about what you think is going on. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of this episode. My overall opinion was it was a little slow in the first half. It ramped up at the end. And I overall really like this episode, really curious about where we're going. And I still think that it's one of the best shows on TV right now. So we'll see if that continues as the season goes on. But you got to start, I think, a little slow with a show like this just to let things ramp up a little bit, let that mystery dangle out. So we'll see what happens this season. Definitely let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.